Do you ever plan your week and then by Tuesday it's just completely gone off the rails? Today I'm going to be walking you through my system for how I organize my week as an ADHDer who is an entrepreneur, who has my own business, how I use Notion Calendar and Google Calendar as well as Notion itself to kind of plan my week and sort of just literally visualize my day. I'll be sharing with you how I integrate my Notion databases into Notion Calendar. Notion Calendar has been out for over a year now, so I have been using it consistently. I actually use Notion Calendar, if not more than Notion these days, just because it has become my go-to calendar system for everything in my life. So I'm going to be sharing with you what works for me, what didn't work for me, and all the databases I use to bring into Notion Calendar, as well as some other hacks and tips. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, join our Facebook group, and join our Substack so that you get an email every single time I post a video here on the channel. I also want to mention that all of the databases that I use in today's video are included in my ADHD Life Tracker Template, which is available on my website as well as in the Notion template shop. But before we get started, I just want to say that writing down your calendar as an ADHDer is more like a rough draft than a final manuscript. So really think about that as you are watching this video, because obviously things can change and obviously things can go off the rails, but having something written down is better than nothing. So let's just get to Notion and I'll walk you guys through. All right, this is what my week looks like so far. This is how I planned it out. And let's talk about each different one because that's going to be helpful in the future. When you see my week, you can see it's very colorful. There's a lot of different things. Over on the left, you'll see I have a bunch of different Notion databases that I put in here. So I'm going to talk about each of them. So I have 7 different databases that I plug into Notion Calendar. And how I do that is you can just go up here, you click Add Notion Database, and then you can select the one that you want. So you can also assign each a color. I do it based off my 13 pillars. So for example, my to-dos are yellow, and then all of my content is blue, and then my meals are orange, my networking events are green, and then all of my contacts are red. So let's kind of go through kind of what this looks like. So first thing I do each week is I plan out my meals. So again, it depends on the day. I try to eat around 7. I have the same breakfast and lunch every single day. So I have a salad for lunch, and for breakfast I have oatmeal. So I just know that that's on my calendar. Then the next thing I have is whatever content I'm coming out with that week. So every Tuesday moving forward, I'm going to be publishing either a YouTube video or a podcast. So that goes here. And this links actually back to my Notion database that is my podcast and my YouTube channel. So for example, this one actually could be YouTube, so I could switch back and forth and it will move to a different database. If I want them both, I would just make a copy. So I could go copy, paste, and then I could maybe change this to there. So that way immediately it adds it to my Notion database that I have on my calendar. But each day, so for the next week, I'm really focused on LinkedIn right now. So all of these are LinkedIn posts and I have them all written out. I just have to publish them on LinkedIn, but it tells me what is being published each day. So you can see here on the yellow that it's film YouTube video, which is what I'm doing right now. So I have that on my calendar as a task. Now, again, all these are priority ones, things I need to do within the next week. And so I've added that. And I'll cut back to Notion so you guys can see that as well. But I'm just kind of walking you through what it is now. So you can see here if there's a red one, that's actually when somebody books something on my calendar. So I leave room on my calendar for bookings. I have a client tomorrow all day. And so I actually have that available for that. So then what I do is I actually make a copy of that and then I create another item. So for example, let's just say, so I'm actually going to create a duplicate of that. So now it will show up in my CRM calendar, which is also inside of Notion. So sometimes I will have 2 different things on my calendar, one for my Google to just kind of block it out so no one can book at that time. But then I also make a copy for my Notion CRM so that I know, I like to track the last time I saw some of my clients. I like to track it all on Notion CRM. So that is what I would do for that. So when it comes to planning content, you can see whichever one I choose, whether it's my podcast, my YouTube, or any other social media, usually it's LinkedIn, I will add that here and I try to have that either scheduled or ready to go in the morning. So then I'm good for the day. Now, if I'm going to an event at night, I usually, so this is a sound bath and meditation that I'm going to tomorrow. That is actually something that I booked on Eventbrite. So I have set up my Eventbrite to automatically add events to my calendar. But then I also create it as a networking event, which I have a database for that. So I will make a copy and then create a version so that actually gets added to my networking event calendar, because I like to track which networking events I go to. Again, I like to track a lot of things in my life. And if you're not this organized, that's totally fine. Like, I just really like to have everything visual. And this is what I found is the easiest for me. So obviously you can see that I have dinner planned out. So I'm going to be making tacos. I forgot to take the taco meat out of my freezer, which I do every week. So today I'm going to have to somehow get that I'll run it under cold water, but then I know at what time I'm going to make dinner and I know what I'm going to have. And I'm going to have tacos for the next 2 days because I'll have leftovers. So it's easier for me to plan my week for eating because I'll have leftovers. So that is how I organize my week. Obviously, these are all tasks, so I could always change them depending on. Right now, I'm not sure what I'm doing on Wednesday. So eventually what I will do is, if I can think of a task, maybe I have to go do errands. Let's just say that. And then I would add that to the to-do database. It's going to immediately add it to Notion. So let's just head into Notion and I'll show you how it shows up on all of 7 of these databases. Okay, so I want to show you guys how I would organize my to-do list and my tasks. So when I go into my task list, I like to organize it by priority first. So you'll see these are all things I want to do within the next week. So what I would do here is, you can see it has all the lists of all the dates already. So I wanted to show you guys, for example, if I wanted to move this, so if I go back to my Notion calendar, you will see that organize my emails is from 10 to 10 a.m. Let's go to 10. Let's do an hour of organizing my emails. I actually need to do that today. So let's just move things around. So let me just make this smaller. Let's move this down. Let's move this down and move this down. And if I want to organize emails after this, that's all I would do. So now if we go back, you will see it automatically moved emails up. And so you can see it automatically changes it. It also, you can see it here as well. So if you wanted to organize it here on Notion, anything that you do here will automatically be done on your calendar because they're linked together. It's a two-way sync, which is very cool. So that is how I would organize my to-do list for the week. Obviously, priority levels is just for me on Notion. It doesn't show up on Notion calendar, but for me, it's very, very helpful. So another thing that I have that I mentioned is my CRM, my inner circle is what I call it. And this is where I can track all the people that I'm talking to every week. So this is how I duplicate that from whatever I'm booking. And so then it goes onto this database. So this is just a way that I can have a person. So this is like literally a person database so that I can like track how many meetings I'm having with people and all that stuff, but it also gets added to my calendar. So this is part of my life tracker template, and that is what I do for this. The meals and recipes one, I don't really do a lot with it, but what I could do is I could link over to the salad that I'm using. So if I wanted to, let's just say I'm doing a chicken and apple salad, I could link over to that. So if I wanted to open this up, I personally just mostly use it for the calendar feature. So then I can look at and see what my calendar looks like. So this is what it would look like. So I could plan it this way as well. So if I wanted to, I could definitely just have this planned out. And then I could actually show what's linked below. So I could actually link all the recipes as well. So I can see it this way if I wanted to. Okay, so as you can see, I don't publish my podcast every single month, but I did publish one last month. So that was this one. You can see it's linked to the Substack OT podcast. So if I go back to my Substack, which is both email and podcast for me, I can see, scroll down here. This was the one that was published on March 4th. And I linked to the person that I published with. Again, I don't always update all of this, but I could write out my podcast and my Substack here if I wanted to, but you can see it's in the yes, it's done category. I don't have much podcast planned, so I need to start prioritizing, coming up with some ideas, putting the published date out there. When it comes to my YouTube channel, you can see that I actually have a lot more ideas and more ones that are high priority, but you can see I don't have any published dates yet. So this one actually is one that I want to do. Maybe I'll do this on the 18th. So let's go back. So you'll see here, if I scroll over to the 18th, it should automatically pop up. You see it pops up here, but then I can decide when I want to publish it. So I want to publish it at 8 a.m. And let's just say I want to record that video. So let's do record video for Tuesday. I usually record the day before and edit. And so I probably have to edit as well. So that'll probably take about 2 hours. So let's just say that that's my to-do item. So if I went back, you can see now that that has already been added to my calendar as a task. So again, this is very helpful for me to plan out my content as well as what's going to be on the calendar. So I've been focused mostly on LinkedIn lately. If you want to follow me, go ahead. I post a lot on there. But one thing that I do is I kind of have ideas of just general ideas, and I post them here, and then I can actually choose to publish. So tomorrow, the one that I'm using is this. So actually, I'm going to be posting on LinkedIn my Substack article, How to Use Notion Calendar. So that will go live tomorrow at whatever time. I probably won't go live at 8. Maybe it'll go live a little later. But what my thought is that it's also, you can see here on the calendar, it's both. You can see that it's both a content link as well as the actual YouTube video. So it'll be How to Use Notion Calendar will be my actual YouTube and Substack post, but it's also going to be what I link and share on LinkedIn. So for me, it's like I want to have it on both so I can see what my whole week is for LinkedIn, but then I also have a once a week plan for my YouTube or my podcast. So you can see for the rest of the week that I have a ton of different things that I'm working on, and I've kind of already planned those out. So again, I have 3 different content calendars that all link into Notion Calendar. They separate everything by type. So I have one for podcasts, one for YouTube, and one for social content. And that can also include things like shorts, reels, that sort of thing. I just put those on social content. And the last one that I wanted to share is my networking events. I'm a big networker. I go to a ton of events. And so for me, having my calendar kind of planned out, I actually send out a newsletter every single month as well, telling people about what local events I'm going to here in the Twin Cities. So for me, having it on this calendar is very, very helpful as well. So you can see here that I had a ton last week. So I was kind of just putting them up. So then I can also see them in this view as well. So I can just go through and list off all the events I went to. And then I could even link them over to people that I met in my CRM. There's so many ways that you can use Notion to kind of like go back and forth and just really have everything really laid out for yourself. But that's just something that I do as well. The last thing I wanted to mention is when people book calls with me, I have set it up so that it automatically adds a item in my calendar, which then automatically gets added into Notion Calendar. Google Calendar and Notion Calendar are connected. So if somebody books a call with me, so if I book a time, let's see what I have available. I will say, if you do not block that off on Google Calendar with Notion, it will still block your time. So let me show you an example. So because this is a Notion database here, that is actually not blocking anything from being booked. This is just my personal to-do list. So I could still, but if there's so you can see right here from 8 to 9:30, that is blocked off on my Google Calendar. So if I tried to block, you can see it doesn't show up at 8. I am blocked off until 9:30 because there's a block on my calendar. However, on the 13th, I could still have someone book a call with me and they would be able to then book a time. So it'll automatically show up on my calendar at 9 o'clock that someone has booked a call with me. So that means I would have to then move my calendar down. So I would have to then structure it, if it was a 30-minute call, I would move it down. So for me, the personal stuff that I'm doing, if I didn't want anyone to book a time, what I could do is I could do blocked. That's usually what I call it. And then I change it to my Google Calendar, if that makes sense. So that way, now if I refresh this page, now you will see that 11 a.m. is the earliest time that I can book because I added it to my calendar. And again, this booking calendar is synced with my Gmail calendar. Using a software called FG Funnels for this. I've done a few videos on that. Let me know if you want more on this because I absolutely love this software. It's super helpful for me as an entrepreneur. It's definitely not cheap, but it's definitely worth it for me, and I absolutely love it. That is how I use Notion Calendar to plan my week, how I use all my different databases to funnel in, and I'm able to set it up that way. Anyways, I hope this is helpful. I'm going to be sharing with you some other tips on planning your week, so I'll head back to the video. Okay, so now that I've shown you guys how my system works, I want to talk to you guys about a few different strategies for getting to this point. The first one being brain dumping. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of open loops in my head and I don't know always how to get them out. So one of the first things that I do every week is I write down a list of just all the things I have to do. Like literally just everything in my brain. I get out a sheet of paper. I don't do it on the computer. I literally write it down so that it actually gets out of my head. Honestly, I feel so much better doing this because it feels like every little thing that I can possibly think of, I can write down. Then what I do is I add it to Notion in my to-do list, and it automatically adds it as a priority. And then you can start to add it to the calendar. That is a way that I calendarize my to-do list, is I just brain dump, and then I can like assign times. What's cool about Notion Calendar is you can quickly move things. So if you're like, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't wanna do that then, just move it. It's not like you have to erase it or rewrite it. You just move it to a different time of your calendar. You can even move it a week out. So for me, I only put priority ones on the calendar. I don't put anything else. So if yours is not a prioritize like today, which is the version I use on my priority list, if you haven't watched my priority video, highly recommend doing that. This is what I do for mine. Now, a lot of people have taught the idea of time blocking, and I know a lot of ADHDers love it, some people don't. For me, I just like to have a general idea. Sometimes people do theme days. I actually only block off certain days of the week for certain people to book certain things with me. So for example, I only take calls Thursdays and Fridays. So if anyone books a call, I know it's not gonna be the first 3 days of the week. For me, that's helpful to just have specific days that I just know I'm not gonna have any client calls. And I can focus on whether it's creating a YouTube video like this, working on my book, working with specific clients that I already have, like previous clients, versus trying to get new leads and new clients. Time blocking can be helpful if you just kind of use it as like general, like this is the 3 hours I'm gonna work on this. From there, you can kind of choose what you do with that time. So having kind of a sort of outline is better than having no outline, but at the same time, again, I don't always stick to it, so just be okay with that. And just know that it might fluctuate, but at least having something down was better than nothing. Also, sometimes when it comes to things like my content calendar, I'll just think of an idea for like this video today. Actually, I thought of because my friend sent me a video very similar to this, and I was like, oh, I should share my system. So like things like that will just come out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh, I should make a video on this. This is a very topical content. So I think that's something that I think is really important to just figure out for yourself, is be able to have the unexpected happen, or maybe an event will pop up that you want to go to. That's okay. I really think that being open to flexibility is the most important thing, especially for an ADHDer. All right, and the third thing that I want to talk about is the power of writing it down. I have struggled with this for many, many years, but I have learned that writing things down or just getting them out of your head is the most important thing you can do as an ADHDer. We tend to ruminate, we tend to just overthink everything, and I'm the kind that really struggles with this. This is probably the biggest struggle I have with ADHD, is overthinking and then getting upset at myself for not actually doing the things I said I'm gonna do. So again, this is not a shame for you to be like, I have to get it all down, written down. I'm just saying it's helpful for your brain to just get things out of your head, write them down, just vomit them out. I'm really a big fan of this video about the vomit system. If you haven't watched it, it's a really, really good video. I learned a lot from it, and it really, really helped me kind of learn how to brain dump better. So if you haven't checked that out, highly recommend this creator's video, very helpful. Okay, so the third part of this video I wanted to talk is the ADHD reality to sticking to a plan. Basically what I'm saying is, I don't always stick to this. I don't want to come on this video and be like, this is how I plan my week every week. No, it's very loose and it doesn't always stick with me. I think that's okay. I think, again, my goal with this video is to be like, it's okay if you don't quite stick to the plan. I don't think any of us do. And if we try to and we don't, then we just feel miserable. And my goal with this whole channel is to help you feel better about yourself. Finding little hacks that might, save you some time, or little hacks that might make you feel more organized without all the shame. My goal with my calendar is a little bit more structure, but not rigidity, which I think a lot of people do for themselves. I think my biggest struggle in my business is time management. And so for me, having at least a plan or a structure makes me feel a lot better than having nothing on the calendar. If you look at the calendar and you're like, what am I supposed to do today? And you know you have a lot to do, prioritization can be difficult for me. But what I do is I just kind of randomize it. Okay, it's like, I'm like, okay, this I'll do it this time, this I'll do it this time. And if that day I'm like, I'm feeling more about doing this, just move it in your calendar. Just be like, okay, instead of making a YouTube video right now, I'm gonna write my book for 2 hours. Like, you can change it as long as it's on the calendar. Like, that's kind of the goal of this video, is just get stuff on the calendar so that instead of just waking up every day being like, what am I doing with my business, or what am I doing with my life, you can actually have at least some sort of sense of direction, and then you can feel your way through it and decide if that's what you actually want to do that day. And give yourself permission to change your mind. Like I've said a million times in this video, it's okay. Sometimes I plan deep work, but then I end up in a hyper-focused spiral, which happens a lot more than I'd like to admit. And sometimes that's good. So it's just like, at least I'm actually getting something done that I need to do at some point. As long as I'm getting something done, to me, that's a win. So my final thoughts on this is you need a system of some sort. It doesn't have to be my system. It has to be something that you can create for yourself, but it's something that you just need to have something. Something more than nothing is better than nothing. If you want to check out my life tracker template, I have a ton of other videos on it. It's constantly evolving. So if you haven't downloaded the latest version, if you purchased my life tracker template and haven't re-downloaded it in a while, I do make updates, which you then would need to copy into your Notion account. So if you'd like, otherwise just go to my website to check it out and grab it for the first time. And it's the latest version. So let me know in the comments what you think of this video. If you want more content like this, how do you plan your week? Do you go a week out? Do you do a month out? How do you plan it? Do you do just day of? Do you not plan at all? I would love to know in the comments. Again, make sure to follow my links below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!